Welcome back to the channel. So on this episode, we got a lot of stuff going on. We finished up the Chevelle. He's going to pick it up, so that's awesome. We're going to make some progress on the shop car, which is really exciting to me. Also, S197, the turbo kit. We make a lot of progress on this episode, and the K5 Blazer gets some love. So let's get to it. You're watching the Vasco Speed and Performance YouTube channel. Okay, so the Chevelle, we had a bunch of like little odds and ends things to do. And that's usually the way these projects go. So after we got it all running, we took it out and drove it. It was shifting kind of funny. So part of that was the shifter linkage. We had to adjust that. The speedo was a little bit off, so the customer said, hey, can you put the correct speedo gears in it? So we did the research on that, got the correct speedo gears in the transmission for that. We ended up making new brake lines for it, putting a different master on it, and we put a Willwood proportioning valve on it. That helped out a lot because as we were driving it around after we had everything fixed, that was actually causing the rear brakes to grab too much, so we ended up loosening those up, so that helped that out. But the biggest thing for this car was the brakes. Even though we put these really, really nice TBMs on there, was it still did not want to stop the best. It just felt really hard, and so the best thing I could explain was it felt like it didn't have any vacuum assist, but it had vacuum. So after we did all of the things and made sure all the brake lines and everything was bled and everything was working correctly, come to find out, the engine is just wore out. I mean, you saw this engine had a bunch of milkshake in it, so we ended up cleaning that, and the engine temp's good. Everything on it seems to be all right. This is an older small block Chevy, so it's a little lower on oil pressure than what I would like to see, but I mean, it's not making any noise. It runs decent. It's just wore out. So I advised the customer, I'm like, hey, this thing, it is what it is. Rather than going and tearing the engine down and, you know, spending all that money, let's just see what we can do. So the engine was actually only had, I believe it was around 8 to 10 inches of vacuum at idle. And what that was doing for the brake booster was just not enough. So what I did was I went and got an electric vacuum pump for it. So the electric vacuum pump actually pulls 18 to 22 inch-pounds on the brake booster, and that solved all of the braking issues. So that was the ticket. Never really ran into that, so it was kind of one of those things that normally you would think, oh, obviously if you thought that was the issue, you would check that, but it was one of those things where we had all these other parts that needed to be replaced anyways, so we did our due diligence and did that. So now braking's all good there. Another thing we did when we took it out and drove it, we noticed that the voltage was not as great. Well, we had already put an alternator on it. The problem with it was only a 55 amp, and it had a voltage regulator, which is right here. So what we ended up doing was, since we now have an electric fuel pump, we have Holley, we have electric fans, we have an electric vacuum pump, we have all these electronic devices pulling power, it's probably a good idea to up the alternator. So we went to a 1-wire 140 amp alternator, and now we have all the voltage. So slowly knocking out little by little, but everything on it did really, really good. And then we ran into one issue, and I wanted to discuss that with you just in case anybody has this problem. I wanted to go over it. Okay, so we originally had the throttle cable linkage hooked here. And the problem with that was when you would be driving it around, you would give it gas, it was fine. But when you let off the gas and then try to get back in it, it felt really hard. And that's because our leverage point for pulling the throttle open was too low. And I think the engine vacuum was trying to hold the valves or the butterflies shut on the Sniper. So did some research, and they actually have this problem on the Sniper 1. Now this is a Sniper 2, so they redesigned this, and I moved it to the highest point, and now that fixed that, drives way better. That was one of the issues. These are all little things that, like, if you don't know, you're just like, well, this sucks, what do? You know, and so it takes some time to go through and figure them out. So one of the other things is This engine is just like an old 350, and it probably, like we discussed, is, you know, wore out, so it doesn't make the power it should. So it's almost, when you're driving it around, you floor it, it was just kind of like doggy. Well, it's probably because it doesn't truly need all 4 barrels of this carburetor. So what I ended up doing was doing some research online, and I ended up, rather than buying one, I ended up making a little secondary rod. So when you floor it now, notice how the secondaries don't open. On a Sniper 2, or any of the Snipers, this little hole right here, the rod is actually longer, and so as soon as you start to give it throttle, it starts opening it. But by making a shorter rod, you can see that the secondaries don't open until there. And I want to say it's about 40%. So you still get them, it's just you don't really use them as much. So that really helped improve the car's drivability also. So if anybody runs into that, it's a nice little trick to help out. So, but everything on this car is great. Really happy with the way everything turned out. So Todd's gonna come pick this thing up. We're gonna go for a drive together in it, make sure he's happy with it, and then he's gonna work on redoing the interior, and then hopefully we see this thing at some car shows and just cruise around this year. Okay, we're back on Justin's Mustang. It's been a little while since I've got some time to work on this thing. So, update, we've got both turbos mounted. We've got both hot side made and welded. This side I've got the wastegate welded on. That one's done. We used a motion merge. We've got a port here for measuring back pressure on this side. When I do the wastegate on that side, I'll put one on this side also. One thing that makes these turbos difficult is the fact that they're so long this way. The billet housing makes them longer. Then how this comes out makes them longer. Then how you have this makes it longer. So overall, if you were to use like a precision turbo, you'd probably be about that far. So in the same 76 size. So what I'm working on is I'm trying to figure out the downpipe. We don't have a lot of room in here. You can see that's a 4-inch 90 on there. You could come through here and run between the wheel and this, but when the wheel turns, it's going to hit. So I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to get this to go up as high as possible, but at the same time, not melt the fender. And then we talked about having the exhaust come out here. So that's the goal. We're going to see what we can get it to do. If not, I have to go to the drawing board and figure something else out. So, but let's get to getting. Okay, so I just got off the phone with Justin, the owner of the car, and we were talking about the downpipe situation. And originally we were going to have it down in the front bumper like it was before, but with everything going on, I just don't think there's going to be enough room. And when your wheel turns, it's already pretty tight to this, let alone putting a 4-inch downpipe through here. So I gave him some options. One of the options was to come through here and come up the front top of the fender. We're not a huge fan of that. I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks, but if customers like it, I'll do whatever. It doesn't bother me. But he was in agreement. He didn't really like the way it looks either. So the only other option would have been to do like a 3-inch downpipe rather than a 4-inch, and then try to snake it through here, but you still have the tire and everything. So I said, let's try to keep it 4-inch, and basically we're going to try to tuck it up as high as possible, which means this area here I'm going to cut out, and I'll end up boxing it back in to strengthen it back up, but trying to get the downpipe to come up through here and then kick down and then come out down in here. That being said, all this wiring and stuff is in here. It's probably going to have to get moved, but again, some things happen for a reason. So if you look at these connectors, there's all this green fuzz in all these. So apparently these were not sealing well. So it could get moved to here pretty easily without a whole bunch of rewiring. So I'll let him know about that. But then the downpipe will just end up coming out down in here somewhere. So, but let's get to making this downpipe. So we needed to mount the remote electric water pump somewhere. So looking in here, trying to find a spot for it, I ended up coming up with this idea. So I made this bracket, and it's out of some decently thick aluminum, and I put some holes in it. And what this will do is this will like mount to this motor plate, something like this. I'll probably go down a little further or something like that. But if it doesn't work, at least then, you know, if it really doesn't like it, then you can always just unbolt it. But it's just trying to find a spot for it. It's really difficult when you got a lot of charge pipes and everything going everywhere on this thing. So let's get this thing mounted. Okay, so it is time to make some updates on the Blazer. So we've had it sitting here for a little while, been working on other projects, but we're gonna get going on it, so let's get to it. Okay, so we're working on AC lines. The fittings that the kit came with are a little different, so we're actually probably going to get like a 45 here and here, I think is what we're going to do, and do that, and then we're going to make these hoses for that. But Matthew's got pretty much most of the AC done. He's just got to finish some connections there. We ended up getting the map sensor put in back there. I got to make a catch can for that. Got to order the brake booster, make a support for this. So we got a bunch of little odds and ends things to do, but let me show you what we've done underneath it. Okay, we went ahead and pulled the cluster back out. I wanted to just make sure it fit and everything was going to work. It looks like it will. So we got the steering column in here. Matthew's got all the connectors put onto everything, and he's pretty much got everything plugged in and wired that needs to go where it needs to. Wiper motors in here. The vintage air fits in here really, really nice. The kit came with an ignition switch. One thing that it did come with are like a defrost. So this defrost vent was already here, but we're missing one for that side, so we need to get that. It came with this little vent here, which is nice. And then it's supposed to have two, right, one here and one on the other side. But the problem with it is the cage is in the way, and somebody cut the hole a lot bigger than what it should be. So that being said, I went ahead and designed this, drew this up in CAD and cut it out on the plasma table. I'm not sure if we're going to keep it at this angle or if we're going to make it go flat, but at least then you have a spot to put these extra vents. So that'll kind of go down there. I don't know, we may make it go perfectly flat. I don't know, we'll kind of play it by ear. Ordered radio, ordered some other stuff, a gas pedal, just a whole bunch of little things that we got to get going on it. This connector here is going to be it's plumbed into, or I should say wired into this, which is this gets the data from the Holly, so that the Holly will send it to this, and then this converts it so that the cluster can read it and do everything it needs to do. This was a fairly expensive box to do. I want to say it was like $300 or $400 for this thing, which it is what it is, but the Dakota Digital one's a little bit cheaper. So, but he went with this dash, so we're going to use this with that. So should work out good. But Matthew's got the ECM mounted in here. We mounted it vertical and put some shims on it so it'd be flat, so you can get to all the connectors and stuff. You can still see the lights, so should be pretty cool. But yeah, he's making progress on this slowly but surely. So we hope to have this thing fired up pretty soon. But yeah, so making progress. Okay, so last episode I talked about these license plates that my dad was making. So technically I made them, but he engraved them. So anyways, so it's 1/8 inch 6160 aluminum. It's got a brushed finish to it, and then they've been anodized. And then after they were anodized, my dad went ahead and milled the logo into them. So I've got 5 of them right now. 3 of them are spoken for. I plan on selling them, but it'll probably be by order only, and I'm trying to figure out the pricing to see how much it's going to cost me to do them. But I wanted to show you guys what they look like because I think they turned out pretty sweet. Well, as promised, I need to make some progress on the Mustang. So I'm going to be cutting the trunk out of it today, and then we're going to work on getting the wheel tubs and torque boxes and stuff put in. So let's take a look at what we got to work with. Wheel tubs, you would probably remember these from the previous shop. That's how long ago I put them together, but I got one of these made, so I'm going to work on getting another one of these cut out, get the wheel tubs cleaned up. We're not going to be using the factory trunk or the factory floor, so rather than getting the cart ahead of the horse, let's cut the trunk out on this thing, make some room for that, and we can start working on wheel tubs. And we went ahead and went with Marty Merrill uppers and lower torque boxes, so that'll just make everything bulletproof on this thing. But kind of a cool setup. We're going to keep it factory suspension in the rear and in the front, so hopefully it doesn't eliminate the car from too many classes. And yeah, let's get after it. Okay, so I've got the trunk cut out completely. I've got the upper torque box just loosely in there. We're gonna work on getting these lowers taken out of this thing. I went ahead and purposely cut everything along this line of this because I'm going to take the sheet metal off of the top of the frame rail, and I'm actually gonna sheet metal over it, so there's not a need to have two thicknesses of it per se. So plus it'll look cleaner, I think, when you do all the tin work in the trunk. So gonna work on that. I also am gonna work on getting this chunk taken out and then cutting it out and just making it a straight line right across the back on there. But yeah, so this is the dirty crap to cut out and get out. So I got to sand all these edges up so we can do the mini tubs. Probably gonna cut the majority of that out, which means if I cut that out, then you're not using the trunk, but that one's rusted anyways. So yeah, so just some dirty work to do on the old Mustang. So let's get to it. that's going to do it for this episode, but I wanted to make some progress on the old Mustang, and I sure did this weekend, so it's nice to be able to make some progress on it for once. But that being said, I got a bunch of welding to do. I still got to work on the mini tubs, and next weekend, got a pretty cool trip coming up. So I appreciate everybody coming by the channel, so catch you on the next one.